What if the leading men and starlets you adored were playing their most difficult role after the cameras stopped rolling? In an era of lavender marriages, icons like Rock Hudson and Joan Crawford lived under the constant threat of career-ending scandals. You know their movies, but not the shadows they walked in. Today, we're pulling back the velvet curtain on the silver screen's best-kept secrets, the bravery behind the facade, and the truth that finally changed America forever. The man behind the myth. Rock Hudson. For anyone who grew up in the 1950s and 60s, Rock Hudson wasn't just a movie star, he was the ultimate American leading man. Standing a rugged 6'4" with a jawline carved from granite and a voice like velvet, he was the dreamboat every woman wanted to marry and every man wanted to be. Whether he was trading witty banter with Doris Day or radiating strength in Giant Hudson, embodied a polished, wholesome masculinity that defined an era. But behind that million-dollar smile lay a heavy burden. In the strict confines of the old Hollywood studio system, being gay wasn't just a private matter, na lamot moi him hua chasungip. It was a career-ending risk. Executives acted as morality police, orchestrating dates with starlets and even a short-lived lavender marriage to keep the illusion intact. For decades, Hudson lived in the shadows, playing the part of a lifetime to satisfy a public that wasn't yet ready for the truth. The world shifted in 1985. When Hudson revealed his AIDS diagnosis, the facade didn't just crack, it shattered. For many Americans, it was the first time this terrifying, invisible crisis had a familiar, beloved face. His courage in his final days turned a whispered scandal into a national conversation, replacing fear with long overdue compassion. Rock Hudson didn't just leave behind a film legacy. He forced a nation to open its heart, proving that even the greatest titans are human after all. The divine enigma, Greta Garbo. If mystery could be captured in a single frame, it would bear the face of Greta Garbo. She wasn't merely an actress. She was a haunting presence, a cinematic ghost who commanded the screen with a single smoldering glance. While other starlets clamored for the spotlight, Garbo famously retreated from it, crafting an aura of aloofness that made the world lean in closer. She lived by a code of silence that modern Hollywood has all but forgotten, proving that sometimes what remains unsaid is the most captivating performance of all. But beneath the "I want to be alone" mantra lay a private life rich with hidden chapters and hushed romances. Long before the term icon was tossed around lightly, Garbo moved through a sophisticated secret world of high society bohemia. Central to her story was Salka Viertel, the brilliant screenwriter who became Garbo's creative anchor and most intimate confidant. It was through Salka's inner circle that Garbo's heart was linked to some of the most daring women of the era. From her intense connection with the poet Mercedes de Acosta to whispered associations with firebrands like Marlene Dietrich and the soulful Billie Holiday, Garbo's life was a masterclass in discretion. She navigated her identity with a quiet strength, refusing to be defined by the rigid expectations of the studio system. Today, we remember her not just as a face on a pedestal, but as a trailblazer who wrapped her truth in velvet and shadows, leaving us with a riddle that is as beautiful as it is eternal. Marlene Dietrich, the woman who reimagined glamour. If Golden Age Hollywood ever produced a true rule breaker, it was Marlene Dietrich. Long before gender bending was a modern buzzword, Dietrich was walking onto movie sets in top hats and perfectly tailored tuxedos, looking more dashing than her leading men and more seductive than any starlet in silk. She didn't just inhabit a role, she commanded the atmosphere. As the legendary critic Kenneth Tynan once remarked, she possessed a rare allure that transcended the traditional, captivating women with her strength and hypnotizing men with her mystery. Her journey began in the avant-garde, anything-goes atmosphere of 1920s Berlin, where she honed her craft amidst a thriving queer nightlife. By the time she reached American shores, she had mastered the art of the dangerous glamour. Marlene collected relationships with the same discerning eye she used for her costumes, tastefully, strategically, and with a breathtaking disregard for convention. Her heart was a revolving door for the era's elite actors, directors, and iconic women alike. She moved through these circles with a sophisticated fluidity, occasionally even sharing partners with her own former lovers in a complex web of Hollywood romance that would leave today's tabloids spinning. But Marlene was more than her rumors. During World War II, she showed her true mettle by trading her diamonds for a khaki uniform, performing on the front lines for American troops, and showing a fierce loyalty to her adopted home. She wasn't just a movie star or a disruptor. She was a one-woman revolution. Even now, Marlene Dietrich remains the ultimate icon of individuality, a legend wrapped in shadows, sequins, and an iron will. For a generation of Americans who grew up watching her stride across the screen with that unmistakable New England pluck, Katharine Hepburn wasn't just a star, she was a force of nature. Long before it was fashionable to be authentic, Kate was the reigning champion of doing things her own way, challenging every stuffy convention Hollywood dared to throw at her. While other starlets were being squeezed into corsets and gowns, Hepburn famously strolled onto the set in trousers, her head held high and her sharp wit even sharper. That rebellious spirit wasn't a studio gimmick, it was in her DNA. As a child, she shied away from the sugar and spice expectations of the era, cutting her hair short and demanding the neighborhood call her Jimmy. She was a category of one, a woman who could hold her own against the toughest leading men and still walk away with a record-breaking 4 Oscars. Behind the scenes, however, the official story often differed from the one told in the quiet corners of her life. While the tabloids were perpetually linking her to her male co-stars, most famously, Spencer Tracy, those closest to her knew of a deeper, more private world. Her most enduring bond was arguably with Laura Harding, a devoted companion and confidant who remained by her side for years. Throughout her long career, names of other remarkable women like Alla Nazimova and Jane Loring whispered through the Hollywood grapevine. Katharine Hepburn lived with a fierce independence that paved the way for generations of women to follow. She wasn't just an actress, she was a pioneer who wrapped her truth in high-waisted linen pants and a defiant spirit, proving that the most beautiful thing a woman can wear is her own courage. The king of glitter, Mr. Showmanship Liberace. For anyone who remembers the glow of a black and white television in the 1950s, Liberace, affectionately known as Mr. Showmanship, was more than a pianist. He was a tidal wave of pure joy. He didn't just play the piano. He transformed every performance into a breathtaking spectacle of sequins, fur capes, and his signature candelabra flickering atop a grand Baldwin. With a wink and a smile, he became America's favorite house guest, bringing a touch of high-class Vegas glamour into living rooms across the nation. Yet behind the velvet curtains of his rhinestone-encrusted life lay a private world that Hollywood treated with a delicate, whispered silence. In an era where a star's public image was meticulously guarded, Liberace played his most difficult role, the eternal bachelor. He charmed his audience with tales of his search for the perfect woman, maintaining a polite fiction that allowed him to remain a beloved icon while keeping his true self hidden in the shadows. The illusion was famously challenged in 1982 when Scott Thorson filed a high-profile palimony lawsuit exposing their 5-year relationship. It was a moment of gripping drama that made daytime soap operas look tame. Despite the headlines, Liberace remained steadfast, denying the rumors with the same theatrical flair he used to handle his heavy capes. Today, we remember him not just for the sparkle, but for the immense talent and the complicated era he navigated. He was a master of the stage who proved that while you can drape a life in diamonds, the man beneath the sequins was a pioneer of self-expression. For an audience that remembers the sharp shoulder pads and the steel-eyed determination of the silver screen's most enduring survivor, Joan Crawford remains the ultimate personification of Hollywood grit. She wasn't just an actress. She was a cinematic hurricane, a self-made force of nature wrapped in satin diamonds and enough drama to fuel a century of legends. Long before she became the formidable matriarch of her later years, Joan arrived in Hollywood with a marvelous face that even the elusive Greta Garbo couldn't help but admire. Yet behind the polished MGM veneer lay a history of whispered scandals that the studio spent a fortune to suppress. The most explosive of these was the rumored existence of a blue film from her teenage years, a secret so dangerous to her image that the studio allegedly paid $100,000 to bury it forever. In private circles, Joan lived with a boldness that defied the rigid moral codes of the era. To those in her inner sanctum, she was often known as Billy, a nickname from her youth that hinted at a more complex boundary-blurring identity. Her name was frequently linked in hushed tones to other legendary women of the Golden Age, including Barbara Stanwyck, the pioneering director Dorothy Arzner, and Claudette Colbert. Joan Crawford didn't just break the mold, she shattered it, proving that to survive in Hollywood, one had to be twice as tough and twice as talented as anyone else. She remains a haunting, beautiful riddle of the American dream. For an audience that remembers the haunting vulnerability and raw talent of the 1950s, Cinema Montgomery Clift remains the ultimate what-if of the Golden Age. He wasn't just a movie star, he was the brooding, poetic soul of a generation, an actor so impossibly intense that he made audiences feel the weight of his every on-screen sigh. Alongside Brando and Dean, Monty pioneered a new kind of American masculinity, one that was sensitive, wounded, and deeply human. Off-screen, however, Clift lived in a state of constant quiet turmoil. In an era when the Hollywood machine demanded a perfect heterosexual facade, he struggled with a sexuality that he had to keep under lock and key. He loved fiercely but privately shadowboxing with a fear of exposure that haunted his every step. The turning point came on a dark night in 1956 during the filming of Raintree County. A gruesome car crash literally shattered the face that the world had fallen in love with. While surgeons pieced his features back together, his confidence remained broken. What followed was a tragic decline that friends poignantly labeled the longest suicide in Hollywood history, as he turned to pills and alcohol to numb the pain. Through the darkness, one light never flickered: Elizabeth Taylor. Their bond was the industry's most beautiful ride-or-die friendship. Liz was the one who crawled into the wreckage to save him that night, and she remained his fiercest protector until the end. Montgomery Clift was a category of one, a man who gave everything to his art, even as he struggled to find peace within himself. For an audience that appreciates the bold, unapologetic wit of a true Southern belle turned Broadway legend, Tallulah Bankhead remains the ultimate firecracker of the Golden Age. She didn't just enter a room, she stormed into it like a glittery tornado, armed with a gravelly voice, a cigarette, and a complete lack of a filter. While other starlets played the role of the demure girl next door, Tallulah was the woman who lit the rulebook on fire, laughed at the smoke, and sashayed away. In an era of whispered secrets, Tallulah lived at full volume. When asked about her romantic life, she didn't shy away. She leaned in. Her list of whirlwind romances was a who's who of the 20th century, crossing genders and oceans alike. From Broadway luminaries to Hollywood's most guarded starlets, she collected hearts with the same reckless abandon she used for her famous one-liners. She famously tried marriage once, but found the institution far too quiet for her tastes. Her explanation for its end became Hollywood lore. "Darling, I go into romances like a speeding car, and I forget their names before I hit the brakes." To Tallulah, freedom was the only spouse worth having. Whether she was shocking the public by going commando under her silk gowns or famously calling everyone darling because she genuinely couldn't remember their names, she was a one-woman revolution. Tallulah Bankhead was the kind of force you couldn't tame, and truth be told, in an era of manufactured perfection, nobody ever wanted to. She was and remains a category of one, gory of. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. See you in the next one.